The Saints get a gutsy come-from-behind win in Baltimore with a little help from the football gods. Plus, LSU overpowers Mississippi State, but at a cost 2 weeks from now. Tulane falters late against SMU, and the Pelicans are scoring at a ridiculous rate 2 games in. Make it 5 in a row now for the Saints as Drew Brees hits a couple more milestones and the Saints win big, a big one on the road. I'm Doug Mouton. Welcome to 4th Down on 4. What is your favorite of the Brees milestones in the last month? We've got 3 choices. Is it the yardage record, the 500 touchdowns, or beating the 32nd and final NFL team? They're all amazing. Vote now on our mobile app or our website at wwltv.com/vote. Now, Sunday in Baltimore, Brees called it an identity-building win.
Wait, we want to make you wait another 4 years. We're going to trade to the AFC North or something. Good job.
Sometimes logic can't explain everything. Sometimes football is a game of chance. It's the only explanation for this. The most accurate kicker in NFL history missed the tying extra point, and the Saints win.
You're talking about one of the top kickers. I don't think he's ever missed an extra point ever. So it's funny sometimes how this game is, but it was a significant play.
To say the least, it was a hard-fought battle between 2 good teams, and Sean Payton set the mindset from the get-go. Be aggressive. On the opening drive, he successfully faked a punt. 5 times in the game, the Saints went for it on 4th down and converted 4 of those.
There's a plan that you want to take, and it's not with reckless abandon, but it is with a confidence approach.
Alvin Kamara said the Saints offense fed off that aggressive energy. They ran the ball a lot and successfully. In a grinded-out kind of game, the Saints grounded out better. They outrushed the Ravens 134-77.
Clearly, you know, we had a lot of rushing attempts. We won the rushing battle, and we thought that was important. I thought we ran the ball good against that front. Very good.
We just stayed at it, and, you know, Alvin was able to get that thing going in the 4th quarter, you know, gash him a couple times. So we knew it was going to be a dirty game, and we just kept wearing on them, and, you know, we just moved the ball and retained time of possession, kept converting 3rd down, and made the plays we were supposed to get the W.
It was far from a perfect game. This kind of game never is. Sean Payton described his team's defense on the John Brown touchdown that could have tied it up as just bad football. But there was plenty good in Baltimore. Demario Davis made this 3rd and 1 stop. The Saints were a little bit better than the Ravens on 3rd down. And late in the 3rd quarter on 3rd down, down 10 points, Drew Brees did this to convert.
He's the GOAT, man. He's a Hall of Fame for a reason, and, you know, I think on that particular play, they just brought one more that we could handle in a pass pro, and he was able to improvise.
On the Saints' last 3 possessions against the NFL's best defense, touchdown, touchdown, field goal. It was just enough to win what Mark Ingram called a dirty game.
The more ways you can find a win, the more confidence you build, the more momentum you feel like you have, and then there's no situation that you encounter where you feel like you can't win it. So, man, these are huge games to build the identity of your team.
We still have a lot of room for improvement. You know, 1 week at a time, Coach preaches.
We're aware that they were 13-0 leading at the half.
And, you know,
now they 13-1.
When they're up at half, they don't lose.
Yeah, they were 13-0 leading at half.
So,
not no more.
We don't really get too much into that. We just, like I said, we just play our game.
That's a good team, though.
It's definitely a good team. I don't want to take nothing from
Good team, good coaching, good program. So that's a great win for us.
A great win to start the gauntlet. The Vikings are next, then the Rams. This game kicked off an incredibly difficult 6-game stretch, and the Saints started it 1-0. All right, joined by Ricardo and Andrew. Andrew, look, let's start with this. I thought this game, as much as any game I've seen in the NFL this year, felt like a playoff game. It was a fist fight in a good way. and you win that game. And Drew Brees said it a few times. That has value, right?
I think win or lose, I think that it still has value. And you come out and you find out more about your team, the grit, the heart, being in a close game and knowing that, you can count on these guys, around you to be able to go get it done. Obviously, it's much better to be able to walk away with a win and say we learned something in the process. But look, I think when it comes to playoff time, that type of game builds bonds and builds character, and I think that's helpful for the Saints.
Agreed?
Yeah, no, I agree. You have to win these kind of games, these playoff games. You're going to be in tight games down the road when you're playing a good team, and the Ravens are a really good team, and this is what you were saying, like a playoff game. Also, I take it to this fact: when you have a kicker in the final minute having a point after that he's never missed a point after in his NFL career, 222 straight, and he misses, you've got to have things break your way if you're going to have a special season. You need things to break.
Yeah. No question.
And that is a break that the Saints got where you look back, when we're digest what this team did at the end, and we look back at this and we go, man, they had something special, but these were one of those moments that you go, all right, you had to break your way, and you need it to break your way sometimes in those cases.
No question. Look, here's the one number that jumped out to me, Ricardo. You're playing a team that got 11 sacks last week, one of the best, maybe the best defense in the NFL. Saints rushed the ball for 134 yards and gave up 1 sack. That is a great performance, and this is without Andres Pete and without Josh Laribas. That's a great performance by the guys up front. Agreed?
I was so concerned with the offensive line playing that Ravens front, and to be able to rush the ball like that, control the time of possession. They had 31 in time of possession over 26-29 for the Ravens. To control it like that, that's very impressive, and it's very encouraging moving forward, because if they can do that against the Ravens, they can do that against any team in the NFL.
There's a lot encouraging going forward in there in this one.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the start of this next 6 games for the Saints especially, I mean, this is the toughest stretch in the NFL, the toughest remaining schedule, that is, according to ESPN. I mean, their FPI, they have their schedule throughout the rest of the season as the #1 toughest schedule in the entire NFL. So to get a win here and to be able to try to keep things rolling, especially over these next 6 games, is very important.
They won close. Terrific job, guys. We're back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. Coming up, we'll head to Baton Rouge, where LSU's defense stifled quarterback Nick Fitzgerald, but thanks to a controversial call, will now be missing a key defender for part of the Alabama game in 2 weeks. Plus, Tulane's bowl outlook got even bleaker after Saturday's loss to SMU. And later, the Pelicans have found a way to run even more than they did last season.
4th Down on 4 is sponsored by the Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino Gulf Coast. Forget Vegas, you've got home field advantage.
In 2 weeks in Tiger Stadium, Alabama faces by far its biggest test of this college football season. The #1 ranked Crimson Tide have been ridiculously good. One Las Vegas book puts the spread at Alabama -14 for now. But LSU has 2 weeks to get ready after a terrific performance to beat Mississippi State. Andrew Doak reports from Baton Rouge.
The Mississippi State game had all the makings of a trap. It looked like a trap, it smelled like a trap, and it was sandwiched right in between LSU's greatest win of the year over Georgia and a meeting in 2 weeks against #1 Alabama.
I was concerned about a hangover from Georgia, and I was concerned that Mississippi State was a really, really good football team, but the maturity of our football team showed they respected them.
When it was all said and done, LSU survived and advanced 19-3. The Tigers' defense swarmed Mississippi State quarterback Nick Fitzgerald. On the Bulldogs' 3rd play from scrimmage, LSU had him rattled so badly, he threw an interception straight to Michael Divinity. 3 plays later, the Tigers' only touchdown of the night crossed the plane, and they were on the board 7-0. LSU allowed Fitzgerald to run for 131 yards, but they could live with that because they made him one-dimensional. Fitzgerald finished with a 9.8 quarterback rating, and when he had to throw, they forced him into 4 interceptions. LSU safety Grant Delpit had 2 of them.
Those plays that Grant Delpit made tonight were phenomenal. What a phenomenal football player he is. The picks that we had at a very key part in the game.
Delpit is playing like the best safety in college football. He's the nation's leader in interceptions this season with 5 on the year. But arguably his most impactful play of the night was not a pick. On 4th and 3 at the LSU 37 and the Bulldogs trailing by 10 in the third quarter, they had a shot to get back in this contest until Grant Delpit sacked Fitzgerald for a 9-yard loss. 9 plays later, LSU tacked on 3 more to essentially put this game on ice. The LSU offense never hit the Bulldogs with a knockout punch. Burrow had his worst game of his LSU career, and the Tigers were outgained 260 yards to 239. Granted, Mississippi State was the nation's #1 defense in points allowed, and LSU's conservative nature was calculated. Orgeron knew no turnovers, good defense, and field goals would be just enough to win this game.
When you get down there and you get points every time, it starts to break their back a little bit, and it makes it hard for them to come back.
The worst first half of football that I've ever played, and my teammates picked me up. Defense played great all night, and when you know you have a defense like we do, that's going to carry you through games like this, it's great.
And the Tigers got another workman-like effort from the leg of Cole Tracy. Tracy knocked through all 4 of his field goal attempts. He's now made 21 of 23 kicks on the year, which is more made field goals than any college football kicker in America. His 21st was a 40-yarder hooked just inside the left upright, giving LSU a commanding 19-3 lead. The game was as good as over, and then this happened.
With just under 6 minutes to play, the biggest play of the game happened that wasn't going to have any effect on the outcome of this game against the Bulldogs. Devin White was called for a targeting hit against Mississippi State quarterback Nick Fitzgerald. He was ejected from the game, which means he's ineligible for the first half of their matchup against Alabama.
The call was a call. They said that they reviewed it and it was definitely targeted. I did not see anything that would suggest either way.
We will miss Devin. I mean, this is his team. This is his team, and we love him to death. And I know he's hurting right now, but we're going to come to play.
Now, according to LSU officials, there is nothing more they can do. LSU Athletic Director Joe Oliva reportedly contacted the SEC office as soon as the game was over to fight the rule, but there's no league appeals process for this penalty. So for the first 30 minutes against Alabama, the Tigers will have to march on without White. From Baton Rouge, Andrew Doak, 4th Down on 4.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Here's the new AP Top 5. LSU is ranked 4th right now. The first college football playoff poll comes out next week before the Alabama game. My guess is when that comes out, LSU will be ranked no lower than number 3. But it really doesn't matter right now because since the 4-team playoff got introduced a few years ago, no 2-loss team has ever gotten into the college football playoff. That is LSU's goal. So for LSU to get there, they have to somehow beat Alabama. Andrew Doak now has some analysis from Death Valley.
I joined now by WBRZ Sports Director Michael Cobble. We're here to let you know the world's not ending, despite Devin White being ejected from the game, and he's going to sit out the first half, obviously, of the Alabama game unless something changes. Look, going forward, we've seen Dave Aranda make some adjustments. He lost Kayvon Chason. I mean, where do you start with this LSU defense? Because it's obviously a wet blanket on a good performance tonight, but how much do they miss Devin White in this Alabama game?
I mean, I think they'll miss him a ton physically. The guy has sideline to sideline speed and intensity, but he will be there, I mean, he will be practicing with them every step up until, kickoff, and he'll be there in the second half. And it's a leadership issue that I think he brings to the field, maybe more so than anything else. The guy is just, persona LSU. But maybe this is a year where it won't kill you against Alabama because of the way the Crimson Tide has geared their offense towards, with Tua Tagovailoa just throwing the ball all over the place. They're going to get spread out maybe a little bit more than they had in the past. So maybe if you had to have an opportunity like this, it's not as terrible as it would be against one of those run-heavy Alabama offenses.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dave Aranda, if anybody could figure it out, I'm sure it's probably him. But you look at Tua this year, I mean, he has 25 touchdown passes, no interceptions. I mean, it's like he's playing a video game. It's just not fair watching Alabama football. This LSU defense, though, is going to be a different test for him, especially this secondary. I mean, when you look at LSU defenses and how great they've been here, in particular throughout the history, the Rolodex of LSU defenses, where does this one stack up in your mind?
I mean, it's tough to tell. I think that they're a little disjointed. They don't have the front pass rush that maybe the defense has had in the back, in the past, I should say. But the back end is so salty. I mean, when you look at Christian Fulton and the way Grant Delpit's playing right now, 4 interceptions against Mississippi State. Now, let's be honest, some of them were gifts. Nick Fitzgerald is not a great passing quarterback, but their ability to force those turnovers, to get the ball back to their offense. LSU has a great shot in this Alabama game coming up because of certain factors. Let's talk about Cole Tracy kicking the ball. You know, LSU, Coach O said it before, if he can get to the 35, they feel like they got points in their pocket. That's huge against an Alabama team. You know, obviously Joe Burrow didn't have a great night against Mississippi State, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't, you know, progressed with this offense. They have a semblance of a rushing attack that I don't think anybody thought they'd have earlier in the season. So I think they're best equipped right now to face off against this Alabama team. Unfortunately, they just have superstar killers, you know, running their offensive show right now over in Tuscaloosa.
Ed Ogeron was asked after the game if this LSU team was different than the LSU team that lost to Mississippi State last year. He said night and day different. Through 8 games, is it night and day different to you, this LSU team?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you're just seeing a lot more consistency from them, a lot more ability to overcome the adversity. You know, Coach O loves to say block out the noise, but I really think they're a total team right now, and it's awesome to see. 7-1, 3/4 of the way through the season.
WBRZ Sports Director Michael Cobble, always telling it like it is. We'll send it back to you.
SMU gets it done on the road.
Thanks, Andrew. Tulane's hopes for a bowl berth took a huge hit Saturday against SMU, and things looked great for the Wave in the 3rd quarter when Donnie Lewis got this pick 6.
Donnie Lewis is going to take it to the house for Tulane.
But immediately after taking a 9-point lead, Tulane gave it back. SMU went 58 yards in 9 plays. Reggie Roberson got the score, and it was 16-14 Tulane. 4th quarter, Tulane again goes up by 9. Jonathan Banks with the emphatic touchdown, 23-14 Green Wave. But again, immediately after opening up a lead, Tulane gives it back. A minute and a half later, Braden West, 29 yards for a Mustang score, and SMU was back to within 23-21. It stayed that way into the final 2 minutes, and this play could be the one that defines the Green Wave season.
Stays on his feet, touchdown!
It's a 67-yard touchdown to put SMU ahead. On Tulane's final drive, Jonathan Banks fumbled. He fumbled twice in the 4th quarter, and the Green Wave are now 2-5 after losing 27-23. Still ahead, the new-look Pels are having huge success through the first 2 games of the season, and why one Pelican is getting a gift off the vine when he's successful this year. Certainly, we had an idea the Pelicans could be pretty good this season, given the way they finished last season, but this start is beyond reasonable explanation. Sure, it's only 2 games, but it's 2 terrific games, and optimism is growing quickly. Ricardo LeCompte reports.
131 points.
Great setup.
149 points.
Do you believe that one?
The Pels off to a 2-0 start, and there's no plans of slowing down the scoring. Alvin Gentry wanted to play faster than last year. New Orleans actually led the NBA in pace during last year's regular season.
I was like, man, it's going to be tough, but I knew we were capable.
Gentry may have been onto something.
We knew that we were going to be a fast-paced team, but not to the point where we've emphasized it from training camp on. And so we just felt like, you know, with the bigs that we have, our bigs were going to be able to run. Obviously, our perimeter guys were going to be able to run. We also felt like Delpit was one of those guys, you know, a little bit like Rondo, that when you put him in the open court, that he was going to be much more effective.
The numbers show it through the first 2 games. The Pels currently 4th in pace, 1st in offensive rating in the NBA. And they're not playing reckless. The Pels 2nd in the league in assists to turnover ratio. The Pels playing with pace and doing it without going small. The points in the paint, plentiful for the Pels. 76 in both victories.
Just all naturally unselfish players. You know, usually it happens because, you know, guys are too unselfish or something like that. But you know, everybody's just finding their niche and playing off each other what we do well. And we play so fast and there's so many possessions that everybody's, you know, getting their looks.
One Pelican benefiting from this fast pace is Nico Mirotic, and he dropped a career-high 36 points against the Kings. And after the season-opening win against the Rockets, Drew Holiday told Mirotic he would buy him a bottle of wine for every game he scored 30 or more points in. Holiday keeping true to his word after Mirotic's performance in the home opener.
I had a FaceTime call yesterday from Drew. He was asking me which wine I like more, red or white. So I said red. So he did brought me the wine. I gotta try that wine, and I will let him know.
And just like a fine wine, the Pels should get better over time, especially on the defensive end.
We can't be a team that runs one way. We got to be able to run both ways. So I just think that the first 3 steps defensively become very important, and we've got to be willing, wherever we are on the floor, to be the quickest at those first 3 steps and get back in transition.
It's still very early, but the Pels look like they'll run past a lot of opponents this season. In Metairie, Ricardo Lecomte, 4th Down on 4.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. The Pelicans are home for 3 this week. Tuesday night, they host the Los Angeles Clippers. Friday night, the Brooklyn Nets. Then Saturday, a big one against the Utah Jazz. We're back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. What's the best of the Drew Brees milestones? Well, I agree. It's the all-time yardage record. Beating all 32 teams is amazing. 500 TD passes is ridiculous, but that yardage mark got my vote too. The Saints, Pelicans, and LSU are all playing great right now. For producer Danny Rockwell, photographer Adam Ney, Ricardo, Andrew, and all of us here at Eyewitness Sports, I'm Doug Mouton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on 4th Down on 4.
4th Down on 4 has been sponsored by the Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino Gulf Coast. Forget